Good morning. I'm taking full advantage of the weather here in the UK and I've set myself up outside to unbox a new pair of shoes that just arrived at the house from HOKA. Thanks to the guys at ProDirect Running. This is the HOKA MACH. In today's video, I'm going to be taking it for a first run and sharing with you my first impressions. But before I do that, I'm going to talk you through some stats and features that you can expect in this one if you're looking to pick it up. I believe when this video publishes, the shoe is now available on the ProDirect Running website in at £160. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description. So I have been testing the HOKA Rocket X now, the latest carbon racing shoe from HOKA for the last few months, and I've been really getting on well with it. And I've also been a huge fan of the MACH lineup from HOKA. This is the MACH 5. I previously used the MACH 4, which was my favorite daily trainer of 2021. So when I heard that HOKA were combining the two in a bit of a mashup, taking some elements of their carbon racer and combining it with their daily trainer, the MACH, I was really excited to test it out. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Let's get into this one and I'll talk you through some of the key stats and features. So here it is, the HOKA MACH X, combining the MACH lineup with the carbon lineup, and we bring you a plated daily trainer. HOKA are marketing this one as a shoe that can be used for your daily miles, but also used for your tempo and speed work. And for some, it's even going to transition into that race day category. So we'll start with the upper when talking through some of the stats. We've got an engineered jacquard mesh upper, very similar to what we found on the MACH 5. So if you've used that shoe, it looks to be a very similar upper to what's found on this shoe. The same can be said for the tongue, quite a minimal tongue, fully gusseted, connected to the upper on both sides. In my UK 7.5, I just put it on the scales, it weighs 244 grams, which if you compare that to the HOKA MACH 5, the HOKA MACH 5 weighs 214 grams. So it's about 30 grams heavier than the MACH, and it is 40 grams heavier than the carbon racing shoe, the Rocket X 2, which in my size weighs 204 grams. In terms of the weight, it's a little bit heavier than something like the MACH, but at 244 grams, that is still a very lightweight trainer. And this one has improved durability that I'll talk about in just a little bit. Moving on to the midsole, this is where the exciting stats and features are for me personally. So this white layer here is a new foam that they are that is called Piba foam, which is used in their Rocket X shoe. I believe it's a slightly different compound. HOKA are saying it's 34% more resilient than the Piba foam found in the carbon racer. And then below that we have an EVA foam, which is quite common in HOKA shoes, just to offer the shoe a little bit more durability and also stability upon landing. And we've got that in a dual density midsole. So this white layer here is a soft bouncy midsole, and this green layer here is a slightly more dense, firmer midsole to offer the shoe a little bit more stability. Sandwiched between those midsoles, we've got a plate. Now it's not a carbon plate, it's a Piba plate, which means it's made from plastic basically. It should offer the shoe a little bit more of a sort of toe-off sensation, a bit more responsiveness than something like the MACH 5 did. But if you compare that sort of rigidity to something like the Carbon X, it's a lot firmer, this shoe here, the Carbon Racer. So I reckon this is going to be a lot more suitable for sort of your daily running and those sort of tempo interval work. Moving on to the outsole, we have quite a lot of rubber coverage here on the bottom, which is actually unusual if you compare it to the previous MACH lineup, which basically had no rubber coverage at all. This looks a little bit more similar to something like the Rocket X, which has this orange rubber here, which is basically the same material. There's a good amount of coverage here, which suggests this one is going to be a lot more durable than something like the MACH 5, which I know was some people's downfall for that shoe. Some rubber here at the back, which is going to protect that midsole and hopefully make this one last a long time for those training miles. The only other stats to mention is the drop in this one. We have a 5mm drop with a 39mm in the heel, so very maximal cushioned in comparison to something like the MACH, dropping down to 33mm in the forefoot. But that's all the stats and features. It's time to get out for a run and see how this one feels. So I've got my sunnies on, I'm out for my first run in the MACH X and they feel really good.
very comfortable underfoot. First impressions, they definitely feel a lot more maximal in terms of cushioning than something like the MACH 5 did. There's a lot more shoe and midsole underfoot, especially in the rear of the foot. Today's run is 90 minutes, easy pace, so just ticking along at around 4:30 per kilometre. At the end of this run, I'm going to do a few strides, just work through the gears a little bit to see how they feel at maybe a faster pace. And tomorrow I've got an interval session as well, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till I've done my easy run today and an interval session tomorrow to give you a full first impressions, because I can give you a bit more of a detailed analysis of how this shoe's feeling on the first few runs. But yeah, beautiful weather today. My next race isn't for 2 weeks, so it's probably going to be around 100 miles this week in terms of training, before I taper down into my next race, which is a 5k track race in Nottingham in the NAL. So yeah, a couple of weeks of training, a taper, and hopefully I'll be in PB shape come the race in Nottingham. That's the plan anyway. So I'm about 10k into my first run, and to be honest with you, they haven't blown me away. That being said, my legs do feel pretty tired today, so it's hard to make the judgment from just one run. They do feel really comfortable, don't get me wrong, quite stable underfoot, but for me at the moment they feel a lot more like a normal daily trainer than a shoe that I want to be picking up the pace and running fast in. But yeah, I just have to share my honest opinions. That's my first impression. Bear that in mind, my legs are tired today, so maybe my judgment's a bit clouded today, but I'm going to give them a try tomorrow on the track and let you know how they feel at faster speeds. I'm not quite getting that same urge that I get with some other tempo shoes to run faster that I am today in the MACH X. But yeah, take with that a pinch of salt, I guess.
The next day.
So it's now the next day. I just finished a bit of a track session tonight down here at Chelmsford AC, and I was wearing these, the MACH X, and they actually performed really well today. I think yesterday my legs were just feeling super tired, so I think if I'd have ran in any shoes they wouldn't have felt great, but today they felt really good. I used them for the warm-up, which is a bit of a progressive warm-up, and as I picked up the pace more towards that tempo, they definitely felt like they come alive a little bit more. I could start to feel the benefit of that lighter, more responsive foam, especially in the forefoot area. I think as I was landing more on my toes, they started to feel a lot more responsive than they do at sort of easy run pace. So today I was really impressed. Yesterday not so much, but that just goes to show that's the first impressions. I think these are really going to grow on me over the next few weeks. Just to summarize my first impressions, I thought I would do some likes and dislikes. So to start with my likes, for me they feel a bit like a more cushioned version of the MACH 5. Now I really enjoy using the MACH 5 in my daily training, so having a max cushioned option is going to be great in my rotation, especially when my legs are feeling a little bit more tired. Just that increased level of cushioning is going to be nice. I also really like how durable these look. Obviously I've only done 2 or 3 runs in these now, so I can't speak on sort of longevity, but in terms of the outsole coverage, there's a lot more on this shoe than in the previous MACHs, so that's good. I think they're going to be a lot more durable, and I also really like the versatility of these ones. I think for me these are going to be a lot more of an easy day shoe that I could tempo in, rather than a tempo day shoe that I could use for my easy runs, if that makes sense. So I think in my training I'm going to use these on the days where I start off easy and maybe want to finish a little bit fast, sort of progression runs. They're going to feel great for that sort of work. For me, these are a shoe that I could sort of take on holiday with me and be comfortable doing every sort of run in. I can do my easy, my tempo, my intervals. It doesn't do the fast stuff exceptionally well like something like a carbon racing shoe does, but I definitely think these have got a place in a lot of people's shoe rotation. So moving on to a few of my dislikes. To be honest with you, I was hoping that this was going to be a little bit more responsive. It has got that PEBA foam in there, so I was hoping for a really poppy, responsive ride. But for me, it just hits the mark a little bit when it comes to sort of top-end tempo day shoe. As I was saying, saying, it's more of an easy day shoe that I could tempo in. I think HOKA have gone for a bit more of a cushion, durable option than an all-out speed shoe here. So maybe it was just me sort of hyping them up. I thought with the X in the title they were going to be a lot closer to the Carbon X2 than the MACH, but I think upon first impressions they're a lot closer to the Mach 5 than the Rocket X, if that makes sense. So finally, to conclude my first impressions, who are these going to be best suited for? I think they're going to be great for somebody who's run in a Mach 5 previously and is looking for a replacement, something with a bit more cushion that can go a little bit faster on days where you maybe want to do some progression runs. I think they're going to be a great option for people who are new to sort of interval and tempo work. They definitely feel a lot faster underfoot and more responsive than your usual daily trainer. So at £160, I think they're going to be a good option for that sort of work. And I'd also recommend these shoes to people who are maybe looking to protect their carbon racing shoes for race day, but they still want to get some tempo work done in a faster shoe. And I think this is where the Mach X is going to come into the rotation for a lot of people. But yeah, there's some of my first impressions. I will do a full review after 100 miles in this one, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that one. But until next time, aspire to run, run to inspire, and we'll see you again soon.